It's Gracie.
It's Sel,
And Marriott.
and we're going to do our presentation on vaccine controversies.
What are vaccinations and when should they be scheduled? A vaccine is made from very small amounts of weak or dead germs that cause diseases. For example, viruses, bacteria, or toxins. It prepares bodies to fight diseases faster and more effectively so that people won't get sick. Some ingredients found in vaccinations are aluminum, thimerosal, gelatin, human serum albumin, and recombinant albumin, sorbitol, and other stabilizers. Others include antibiotics, egg proteins, although it's more yeast protein, and latex. This chart describes the different diseases and what vaccines are needed from them, how the diseases are spread, disease symptoms, and the disease complications if you don't get vaccinated.
On 1992, school vaccinations became an official requirement for public schools. Most schools in the United States around this time required smallpox vaccination even before children could attend. Some students and their families did not agree to this requirement and tried to seek help from the courts. One case was considered by the U.S. Supreme Court when Rosalind Such, a student from San Antonio, Texas, was excluded from a public school for failure to present proof of vaccination. The court did nothing to help because it was against the 14th Amendment. The court then stated that the constitutional question presented was not sustainable in character and determined that a city ordinance was a law of the state and that it was within the police power of a state to provide for compulsory vaccination. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, most childhood vaccines are 90 to 99% effective in preventing disease. Shot at Life also has stated the vaccines save 2.5 million children from preventable diseases every year, which is equal to about 285 children saved every hour. One child dies every 20 seconds from disease that could be prevented by a vaccine. It is said that some of the ingredients in vaccines are safe in the amounts used. Some of the ingredients that are found in the vaccines can be harmful in large doses, but it is said that vaccines don't take up a large quantity of these ingredients. It is said by Paul Offit, MD, that children are more exposed to virus, bacteria, toxins, and other harmful substances in a day than they are in vaccines. For example, aluminum has been found in higher quantities in breast milk and infant formula than in a vaccine. Are extremely rare. Sanjay, chief medical correspondent for CNN and practicing neurosurgeon, say that you are 100 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to have a serious allergic reaction to the vaccine that protects you against measles. Vaccines protect the spread of diseases. Herd immunity means that young people of a population are vaccinated to prevent a contagious disease from spreading. People who can't be vaccinated of age, poor health, or other reasons rely on herd immunity to prevent contraction of a vaccine-preventable disease. And on January 2008, there was an outbreak of measles in San Diego, California, and it resulted in 48 children who had to be quarantined or isolated because they were too young to be vaccinated and could not rely on herd immunity to keep them safe. In 2011, 49 American states did not meet the 92 to 94% herd immunity threshold for pertussis, resulting in an outbreak that sickened 42,000 people, and it was the biggest outbreak since 1955. Vaccines can save children and their parents time and money, and it gains society profit. Vaccines cost less in time and money to acquire than disease costs in time taken off for work to take care for a sick child and medical costs. The CDC states that children vaccinated between 1994 and 2014 have yielded net savings of $1.38 trillion in societal costs. This money includes the prevention of lost productivity due to the disability and early death. It is estimated that the United States saves about 27 per $1 invested in the DTaP vaccination and 13 per $1 spent on the MMR vaccination. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services believes that $6.2 billion could be acquired in treatment costs if vaccines are more prominent in the world's poorest countries. Research done by the International Vaccine Access Center at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health predicts that $62.9 billion could be saved by providing the HIB, the PCV13, and the rotavirus vaccinations to the 73 poorest countries. Vaccines are eradicated smallpox and nearly have eradicated other diseases such as polio. Children are no longer vaccinated against the smallpox because the disease no longer exists due to the vaccination.
Cons of vaccinations. Vaccines can cause serious and sometimes fatal side effects. According to the CDC, all vaccines carry a risk of a life-threatening allergic reaction in about 1 per million children. Though the National Vaccine Information Center comments that vaccines may not be linked to learning disabilities in other diseases such as asthma, autism, diabetes, and chronic inflammation, and others. Even though some cases report that after being vaccinated, they have resulted with long-term seizures, coma, lowered consciousness, and permanent brain damage, it has not yet been stated that DTaP or MMR has any correlation. CDC notes the rarity of the reaction makes it difficult to determine the causation. The government should not intervene in personal medical choices. Most people who are anti-vaccination believe that medical decisions for children should not be determined by the parents or caregivers and not by the government, and that mandatory vaccines infringe upon constitutionally protected religious freedoms. Barbara Lowe Fisher, co-founder of National Vaccine Information Center, stated, "If the state can track down and force citizens against their will to be injected with biological products of known and unknown toxicity today, there will be no limit on which individual freedoms the state can take away in the name of the greater good tomorrow." Ron Paul, MD, former U.S. Representative, stated that intimately personal medical decisions should not be made by the government. Freedom over a person is the most basic freedom of all, and all people in a free society should be sovereign over their own bodies. When we give government the power to make medical decisions for us, we in essence accept the state owns our bodies. Vaccines are natural, and natural immunity is more effective than vaccination. Even pro-vaccine parties state that natural vaccination causes better immunity. Mayo Clinic states the natural infection often provides more complete immunity than a series of vaccinations. The pharmaceutical companies, FDA, and CDC should not be trusted to make and regulate safe vaccines. The primary goal of pharmaceutical companies and doctors is to sell drugs and make a profit. William Posey, congressman, stated in an April 8th interview, "The incestuous relationship between the public health community and the vaccine makers and the government officials should not be allowed to continue." Too many top CDC personnel go to work for the vaccines makers and then they leave. That's revolving door. That creates serious conflict of interest and prevents incentive that compromises integrity. Most diseases that vaccines target are relatively harmless in many cases, thus making vaccines unnecessary. Diseases chickenpox, malaise, and rubella are often treatable and don't need vaccinations in order to be healthy.
One of the biggest fears of most parents is that vaccinations cause autism. In most cases, parents choose to not vaccinate their children because of this. In a YouTube video, Dr. Mike asked some mothers about this conspiracy theory, and one stated that they would rather have their children have autism than be dead, and in reality, who wouldn't? After some research and investigations, professionals have not found any correlation between vaccinations and autism, which should keep parents less worried. Some conspiracy theories suggest that a combination of measles, mumps, MMR have caused autism by damaging the intestinal lining, which allows the entrance of proteins, though like mentioned before, researchers have concluded that none of these cause autism. Another professional, Ellen Klein, professor of pediatrics, summarized the results of a report on vaccines and reported that the MMR vaccine does not cause autism and that the measles, mumps, and MMR vaccines have not been used without adverse effects since the mid-1940s. Some things that are being done are that the FDA is requiring testing for all vaccines for up to 10 or more years before they are licensed, and that the CDC and the FDA observe them to assure that the vaccines and the ingredients used in the vaccines are safe. With this, they hope that the parents will feel more safe and they will want their children to be vaccinated for healthier reasons. Another thing that continues to happen is that some celebrities such as Jenny McCarthy, Donald Trump, Rob Schneider, and Jim Carrey, who don't support vaccinations, are going on social media and media in general to talk about their opinions. Before Donald Trump became president, he posted a tweet on Twitter saying, "If I were president, I would push for proper vaccinations, but would not allow one-time massive shots that a small child cannot take autism." With this, he tried to gain votes from people who were against vaccinations. Some, just like Rob Schneider, even go as far as trying to implement their opinion on national media. For this, he got kicked off of a state farm ad campaign. Vaccines are usually prescribed through checkup appointments. Your family doctor will usually send you a text message or phone call asking you to book or schedule an appointment. Within the appointment, your doctor will ask you a series of questions, asking you how your child is doing, and at the end of the appointment, they will tell you that your child is due for a vaccine depending on their age, and that if they don't get vaccinated, they can get seriously ill. After a parent authorizes a vaccine, a nurse will come in and inject it. Some parents may not pay attention when a nurse is giving a shot, and it is very important for parents to ask questions about what is being injected or even check that the needle is clean. And even if parents don't authorize a vaccination, their child may still be safe and healthy, but it would definitely be better if they were cautious. Right now, the federal state should require some vaccines in schools because if not, an outbreak of a disease can interrupt the education of some students, if not even at all. If families choose to not vaccinate their student for personal reasons, they should continue their education online or at a school that does not require other children to be vaccinated, because a child who's not vaccinated can spread a disease to others, and it wouldn't be fair to them or the students' families. This wouldn't be going against the First Amendment, as some claim, because students on vaccinations and why they require them in schools, for example, in sex ed or even health. Most parents aren't aware of why vaccines are demanded, and it sometimes scares them to think the doctors do it to gain profit, when in reality they don't, because it goes towards further researches.